you very much. We're going to continue with our speakers. Let's get started with our next speaker. Laura Barthel is an assistant professor of accounting and corporate entrepreneurship in the College of Business at Eastern Kentucky University. Instead of bringing an outside expert, we brought an internal expert. Before coming to EKU, she was an internal auditor at Tempur-Sealy International. That's where they sleep on the job. I couldn't resist that. She was responsible for Sarbanes Oxley implementation and refinement, risk assessment, designing and implementing process automation projects, corporate entrepreneurial initiatives, and coordinating and auditing in conjunction with the external financial audit. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Laura Barthel. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Did you want this one? Okay. Sorry, I want to make sure this microphone's okay. All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you today. I'm proud to represent EKU's Banking and Financial Services program. A few of you in the room have been a big part of getting that off the ground. If I can see a hands of maybe if you've served or previously served or currently served on that advisory board. I know there are a few of you here, but thank you so much for that effort. It's going great. We have a great program with a great director, Maggie Adney. She was going to join me today, but could not join me today. Also, thank you for the KBA for allowing us to partner with you to gain some insights from banks about what might be needed in regards to technology and innovation. So in line with the theme today of the extra mile, this presentation is geared to give you some tangible steps for your next mile. EKU's program, banking program, we embarked on this study for the 2021 KBA Bank Innovation Conference. And we're continuing that work to bring you today, unlocking your innovation by looking at your strategic initiatives, your culture, and your technology. I'm going to start today by telling you about my first day on the job, which you already know what company that is. But on my first day of that job as an internal auditor, mind you, I'm an accountant, I'm a number person, I'm not an innovation person. But I was asked to not report to corporate headquarters, but to report to a technology firm in Cincinnati. And I was tasked with, in 2 weeks, I would present to the CEO and CFO a case for why we needed to acquire this technology and implement it to deal with one of our largest compliance regulation burdensome of Sarbanes Oxley. And we had also recently gone through our IPO. And so why did they send me here? Because they had a strategic initiative that they knew that with those two things ahead of us, we had to become operationally efficient. We knew growth was coming, and we knew that we had to become efficient. So that's why they were looking into that. But what really allowed it to work is their culture allowed for the innovation. I was an internal auditor, but as part of my role, they set aside the resources to be able to allow part of my role to be about innovation and trying to really go for that operational efficiency in our processes, specifically in the compliance, but it spanned over to others as well. But some may say that buying that technology was pretty innovative. That was 15 years ago when we were automating processes. But to be honest, that wasn't the most innovative part. What was innovative is, see, you can't take an inefficient process and automate it. That doesn't make it efficient. The innovation came in looking at our processes and determining whether or not they needed to be automated or not, and really creating efficient processes instead. Additionally, part of the innovation was because we strategically partnered with Deloitte and the technology firm. So we structured the deal for buying that technology such that the work that I did to create automated processes could be used and applied to any company that was dealing with Sarbanes-Oxley. So Deloitte could market that to their clients. The technology firm won because they got more clients to buy their technology, and we won because we were the guinea pigs. And it worked. We were able to implement that and streamline that process. But that was another way of innovating, that we were able to do that and structure a deal that wasn't really traditional type of deal. So when we look at the strategic initiatives that we have, when we look at our culture and we combine those, then it opens up an opportunity to have innovative solutions. So today what I'm bringing to you is multiple perspectives, not just from Maggie and myself, but from research and from these perspectives. We started with a KBA EKU survey for that technology or for the Banking Innovation Conference, and that included perspectives from 79 banks. We also did a focus group with the KBA Emerging Leaders, and then we also just recently over the summer launched a survey with the Graduate School of Banking, and where we got perspectives from 50 banks. Additionally, we're bringing in some information from the American Banker Survey that surveyed 100 bank professionals. Just like our compliance burden that we had, you probably have some large mountains to move as well. We felt like that was a huge mountain. You may feel like you have the Mount Everest in front of you to move. And according to our banker survey and the American Banker Survey, we found what some of those strategic initiatives might be, what mountains you're trying to move. And we found that 61% rated from the KBA EKU survey that it was either their strategic operational efficiency or it was about the enhanced customer experience. Similarly, the American Banker, 62% said that it was about offering innovative solutions beyond traditional banking. So we know that these strategic initiatives are going to call for some different thinking, maybe some extra thinking as well. And when we look at the survey that we did initially, we found that banks actually said, hey, we expect the benefit of increased operational efficiency if we do partner with some technology firms. And so that alignment there says, hey, we know that there's some expected benefit from there. But I'm going to tell you, just like with my experience at that Fortune 700 company, that the technology in and of itself isn't where the innovation takes place. It's not a plug and play and move on. It's about rethinking, new thinking, and extra thinking. For example, when we look at the American Banker Survey, on this next slide, follow along with me here, they found that their desires were higher than what their really implementation rate is. For example, and you can follow along from top to bottom here, 61% said that they know that partnerships with these technology firms is key to their growth, but yet only 12% have these strong relationships and can add more easily. 85% said that they do have customer data aggregated across all their systems, but yet only 40% are leveraging that data in order to create those customized customer experiences. 82% that say that innovation is key to their growth strategy, but only 20% are considering some digital transformation and being able to move to those efficiencies. 89% say that the personalized digital experience is critical, but yet only 10% actually have configurable, mobile, and integrated digital experiences. So what's the roadblock? What's the mountain that has to be moved? I'm going to give you a scenario about a mountain, and I can't find the origins of this story or this scenario, but it talks about 4 people, and these 4 people were looking at this mountain to move, and the first person says, well, we can dynamite it. That's how we'll move it. The second person says, we can put a tunnel through it. The third person says, well, we can build a road around it. But the fourth person says, wait a minute, why are we moving the mountain? And so that's really key, and that's the perspective that when we're looking at these new innovations and technologies that we pause to ask these questions. What's the purpose? What are we really trying to achieve? What is our strategic initiative here? Why are we doing this? What are the different points of view? What are the assumptions that we might be making about moving it or not moving it? What are the implications? When we make this move, what will happen? How will our customers use it? How will we use it? And what information is already available that could help us in this process? Or what information maybe do we need to gather in implementing? So when we ask these questions, we get to be able to find the why and the how. So the culture is how we do that. When I talk about culture, I'm talking about the infrastructure of the institution, the norms, the practices, what you value, what you measure for performance, and how you communicate that throughout the entire institution. And when that culture allows for the why, it's a lot easier to see the how. So today, I'm going to help you find out what those tangible steps are. And so through research and what we found from various organizations and industries, we've been able to categorize what does innovation culture mean? What are the tangible things that we can do within an institution to allow for this innovation? And so I'm going to talk about these elements and then also refer to the survey at Colorado to tell you where the banks responded and where they felt like they were doing somewhat implementing and where there was really no implementation. So to start with, where they felt like they were implementing and having an innovative culture was in employee engagement and innovation. What that means is that your employees consider their contributions to be valuable, that there are open communication lines, and that they're engaged in the decision making, a competitive advantage of the institutions that most of you all are in with community banks. The second, the knowledge of the market. These your employees work with customers, and they're able to know the needs of these customers, and they're able to know even which customers competitors are targeting. And they're able to maybe identify where your bank and institution could be differentiated. The last one on the top there, employees focus on creating value. They see the open opportunities to be able to help serve customers, and they are able to develop those ideas, and they have the freedom to do so. So these are the competitive advantage of banks, but we have to remember, even though that survey indicated that they were maybe somewhat implemented, it was still not strongly positive that they were fully implementing these aspects of culture, meaning they're allowing for these things to occur. So we wanted to focus on the two that were not on the radar and maybe give you some tangible steps of things that you can do to help make an innovative culture. So looking at being able to proactively manage systems and processes and to be able to strategically infuse innovation. And you may say, well, what in the world do those mean? So I'm going to give you a little breakdown here and follow along as we go through from perspective to new products and new services. As we go through this, I also want you to think about your institution. Think about, of these elements of this, being able to proactively manage process and systems, what are you doing well? What's already in place? And then also think about, well, what could I do when I go back? What are the next steps? How could I implement this? So to have a proactive alignment of your systems and processes, it means that it takes the perspective that we're going to look for customers' needs and figure out how we can adapt and meet those needs. It means that we're going to have a perspective that mistakes will occur. We're going to have leadership that's able to break down barriers to allow the innovation to flourish. It means that we're going to use performance measures for improvement instead of control, because under control, that innovation, people are too scared to innovate. It takes resources, similar to what I mentioned with my role, where they allotted time out of my role, and my evaluation metrics were based on the innovation that occurred there. It takes ideas, the ability for ideas to flow. Do you have a way to capture what those frontline employees are gathering, the information they're gathering about customers and their needs? Is there a process for it to flow throughout the organization? And are there metrics available to actually measure the innovation? Same thing with new products and services. Do you have measures available, and are you tracking not just their rollout, but their adoption and their satisfaction after implementation? That last piece of that innovation culture was on the strategic infusion of innovation. And follow here with me with the numbers, and these numbers represent the ranks from that Colorado survey, meaning 1 was the most implemented, which was still low implementation, all the way to 9, which was their least implemented. So for example, the first one, strategic intent. Well, that's the first step, right? Is to have intent. But what about the next mile, right? That extra mile. It's all these other pieces. It's the steps to make strategic planning actually work. So what does that mean? 2, it means you have diverse leaders and diverse thinking, meaning that we see it from multiple perspectives and we're able to look for opportunities there. Third, the continuous strategic initiatives, not just a plan, but actual steps. Do you have those mapped out and written out? Have you gone the extra mile to say, what are we going to do to meet the strategic plan or our intent? Fourth, a culture that is innovative. That means we encourage big ideas. We're open to communication, and there are aspects that we know that it's going to take some risk-taking. Fifth, is it a core value? Is it something that you reward, you praise, and you look for those innovative opportunities? Is it communicated in your meetings? Is it communicated in how you respond to performance evaluations? Sixth, strategic planning is opportunity-oriented instead of process-oriented. And what I mean here is that maybe your strategic initiative says that we want to improve the customer onboarding process or improve the process for acquiring new customers, as opposed to opportunity-oriented says we want to serve new potential customers. And when we just simply take a perspective shift, it opens up our opportunities. We're not any longer looking at just the process, but we're looking at the purpose for what we're trying to do, and is to serve those customers. 8, senior management cascades the innovation message, meaning that the management encourages innovation throughout the meetings. 9, there's a coherent set of innovation goals and objectives, meaning that you have in place as part of your metrics for measuring specific to innovation, the number of projects, the satisfaction after implementation, the time spent. We'll look at more of those in a second. So those are the 2 key elements that we would say are tangible things that can be done to increase or enhance what you already are doing to create that innovation culture so that you can unlock that innovation. But strategically aligning the 2, taking your initiatives and your culture together, what are some additional tools that you can use? So this next step is really helping us look at what some of those practical tools might be and some examples of what other banks have done as well. So this next diagram that I'm going to show, the green spot there where it talks about employees' focus on creating value, there's a bank in San Francisco that uses this diagram to help their customers or help their employees be able to create that value. So this is what we are calling the concierge wheel. And those employees are able to see the services provided to the bank, and as they're faced with a customer, they're able to easily connect and create value for that customer and your institution because they're able to see what maybe can fit the needs of that customer. What this allows, this innovative culture, it's allowing those employees to be able to move forward and be able to create that value for those customers. It gives them the freedom to create that value. In looking at those new products and services and ideas, a tangible thing that we can give you today is looking at what are some of the measures you might want to look at. So are you measuring the number of products? Are you measuring the average development cost? Are you measuring the ROI of these new initiatives? Are you looking at the leader's time spent on the project? Are you looking at the possible revenue that's being generated specifically from that initiative? Do you have a list of the number of projects, and have you categorized them as far as new products to product revisions and even product support, such that you can continue to see the innovation that's occurring and go that extra mile? The other practical example is looking at your partnerships, your contracts. I mentioned the deal with Deloitte and the technology firm. There's a lot of innovation to be had in how those contracts are set up in the terms that you might have. And what partners are we talking about? We're talking about the partnerships with Fintechs or those third-party providers. We're talking about even your core provider, your core system providers, your vendors, other key partners in the community, maybe even other banks. You all aren't competitors, a lot of you. You stick to your region, some of you. But are there partnerships across regions? And then with universities as well. So looking at those and trying to identify what are some possible opportunities to where we can gain and meet those strategic initiatives. If we're focused on that, what is it that we can do? How can we restructure those partnerships and reevaluate those to meet those strategic initiatives that we do have? And then the second part here are the incentives. So there's a lot of incentives out there. Regulators, they want you to do certain things, right? Think back to the CRA credit. And those incentives are out there to help you meet what they think your strategic initiative should be. But also, being an accountant, my perspective is tax, and there's a lot of tax incentives as well for maybe investments that you make in technology firms. And we did look at that specifically in our KBA survey. We did a little experiment, and we saw that when banks were offered an incentive, that group of banks were actually more likely to invest in these technology opportunities. So look for those opportunities. It does seem to be a favorable route to go. So moving forward, we are going to continue this research. We, my partner Maggie and I, she's again the director of the banking program, doing a fantastic job leading that program and getting that up and running and successful. But the research that we're conducting here, we have a good perspective from the Graduate School of Banking, but we'd really love your perspective as well and get that Kentucky Bank perspective. And so you should be looking in your email for a survey link to do that. You can see how it's reported out. It's not reported out by bank name or anything like that. We do look at performance measures so that we can really see, is it really driving performance? So be looking for that. We have heard from CEOs who kind of consulted with us on this survey that they gained value just in simply taking the survey because they were able to see all the things I was referring to today and those tangible steps that could be taken towards that extra mile. And then the other way you can help is if you want to use the QR code, there's a short 3-question survey there that lets us know kind of what was most helpful today and what might be some tangible areas that we could look at further. So again, thank you for this opportunity to be here. Thank you for inviting me here, and I look forward to joining your panel.
Box Lake offers us a level of confidence, mainly because they're large enough that they are able to handle all of our IT needs, and they're small enough for the personal touch.
Managed service allows us to be competitive in today's market, and their individuals that they send us are able to solve problems.
We know all of the engineers. They're always very friendly. They're always available to us. And if there's something that they can't handle on the phone, then they're very quick to respond and to come on site and fix whatever issue there is. Box Lake was on site for us when we increased the speed of our data lines. One of the Box Lake engineers was on site from beginning to end to make sure that all of our devices would communicate with each other.
They've also allowed us and helped us get to another level that we would probably not be able to achieve without having IT professionals on staff. I would recommend Box Lake based upon their personal touch, their service, and their expertise.
Box Lake always goes the extra mile.
Laura, technology obviously enables us to leverage our resources for greater returns. If you buy cutting-edge technology, you're paying a premium. If you buy maybe generation below cutting edge, it's going to be out of date. Where is the sweet spot in our investment in tech?
That's a great question. I think it goes back to what I was talking about today, where you're really asking those questions of the purpose. And what is it that you really need? Do you need the cutting edge? Or are your customers asking for something that would be available in the lower level? So I think that's really the key, is to really critically examine before making those types of decisions, because it is a hard spot.
As costly as technology is, think of what we've seen over the last, say, 3 decades. I remember when we were paying $7,500 for a PC with 10 meg of RAM. The cost has gone down and the utility has come up.
Yeah, there's great opportunity there to be able to harness those technologies, and definitely the price point is not what it used to be.
What do you recommend in terms of a bank that's looking at technology solutions for whatever issue they do in terms of maybe reaching outside the bank for advice?
Sure. So in looking at innovation, and again, this perspective of of really critically thinking about it. There is a process that a lot of companies are using, and I'm sure some banks are too, but I suggest that you look into design thinking. And what that means is that we do look outside the bank and we actually empathize using data to see what is it that our customers are really needing and wanting and likely to use, because it would be not good if you spend a lot of money on a technology that your customers aren't even wanting or going to use. And so that design thinking process really starts there, looking outside the bank. And maybe it's looking at maybe what other banks have done and how well their customers are using that technology as well. So those are some opportunities, I would say, that definitely it probably starts there, looking outside the bank first.
I'll get directly to the point with this next question. How do we ensure the highest return on our investment in tech?
Making sure that it is what you need. And that's what again, going back to making sure that it's what's going to work for your bank and your customers or your potential new customers. So we really have to do the research up front. The extra mile up front is what will ensure that success.
What can you and EKU do for us?
Great point. So continuing this research, right now we've been looking at banks and but that customer data, those are things that we could research as well. So definitely we can partner there. We also do have the new banking program in which we're trying to create individuals and develop those individuals that you would want and need, and they want to go back to their home location. They want to go back to you in the regions that they are from and serve their home banks. So that's another way. So we can help with research and we can help develop those students that you need. And we want feedback and perspective. We want to know what it is that you do need. Just like you all have to look for what your technology needs are, we want to know what are the needs for what we're developing too.
Do you do that at both the undergrad and grad level, or is it just graduate?
So right now our banking program is just at the undergraduate level. So it's an undergraduate degree in finance, specifically in banking and financial services.
How many students are you attracting to the program?
Sure. Our finance program has about 100 students right now, so we're in the growth mode. The program just launched, 3 years ago, maybe, I think. And so it just got it's a long approval. There's some bureaucratic processes that have to go in place.
Not at a university, surely.
That the state has to allow us to even offer a program. And so we actually started with a concentration where it wasn't even a program, just to try to develop that.
So you're about to offer that first class of graduates to us.
That's
then.
correct. That's correct. That's correct.
What do you tell these graduates about what they need to do to go out and have a successful career in banking?
Sure. So they definitely have to understand the industry as a whole, which Maggie Abney does a great job leading those efforts with her professional experience in banking. I'm not directly a professor in the banking program. Maggie and I just work together on the research. But, her industry perspective and her ability to connect with you all and bring in you all to that program as well is super helpful in developing those individuals that you need.
When you say bring you all in, are you actually bringing real-world bankers in to guest lecture and bring a real understanding as opposed to an academic understanding? Absolutely.
And, at EKU College of Business, that's actually kind of our niche, is that, in our mission, again, strategic focused, we try to walk the talk, and our strategic focus is on applied education. And so we don't just want the theoretical, but just like today, what are those tangible steps? What can they do in that applied approach? And the only way we get that is bringing in those professionals who are in the field, and we do that often.
What can the people in this audience this morning do to help you in the EKU program?
Sure. We do have an advisory board, and some have served on that advisory board. That's always a helpful way. Another way is if you have something that you would like to share or something that you've learned in your bank that would be helpful to these students coming in, then reach out to us. Let us know that you would enjoy coming. Look for opportunities that Maggie Abney, keep that name front and center, because that's who you'll hear from, is from her, and reach out to her, or she'll reach out to you.
Now, I know you're producing this new crop of, we hope, future bankers who are Kentuckian. What percentage are Kentuckians in the program?
I think the percentage, I don't have this written down, I think it's right around 85% are actually Kentuckians.
So we
in our
can
college
reasonably
business.
expect them maybe to remain here.
Yes. I know from my accounting program, for example, the jobs are everywhere. And the difficulty that I have is that those large Big Four accounting firms, for example, they're not in those regional areas that they want to go back to. So a lot of times our students will actually double major in accounting and banking and finance because they want to go back and work for these regional banks in their hometown.
So Laura, just so Jay and I don't have to get off stage.
Right,
to
right.
Turn it over to John here. First of all, congratulations. Eastern won a national award for their Fintech research
Yes.
in a national competition, so congratulations on that. All fintechs are not the same.
Right.
All right? When you talk about banks partnering with a fintech, how do they know who to partner with and who not to partner with? I mean, it's a difficult question, I think.
It is a difficult question. Some of these, I think what we found in our initial research is fintech is definitely a scary word. Because we have, as you all know, you have a lot of regulation requirements and you have compliance that you're trying to deal with, and so that can be kind of scary. But essentially, we're talking about these third-party providers. Some of them are more startup than others, and so I think that's key. Another thing is, I think, looking at what it is that you're trying to use that fintech for. Is it an internal process? If it's an internal process with minor compliance risk, then go for the startup. Maybe you can do the cutting edge. Maybe you can do cutting edge new. And but again, looking at that process, looking at what the potential risks are for that specific thing that you're trying to use the technology for is going to be key to picking.
Put yourself in a bank CEO shoes, all right? How would you decide, or maybe how would you define, how would you know if your bank has an innovative culture?
Sure, absolutely. So the survey that we did with the Graduate School of Banking is actually a statistical, I know you don't want to hear all this, but anyway, really sophisticated method for evaluating that. And so one would be taking the survey. If you wanted to know specifically how that went out in your bank, what your bank said, and you can use this, it's just a set of questions, it's a little bit long, 15-minute survey. But, you could actually have all your employees or employees from bottom to top take this survey, and we could even give you that score so that you know what your specific bank is. But, a start would be to, when you see an email with the survey, to go ahead and complete that, and that can get us going to at least see what the perspective is of banks in Kentucky on the innovation climate.
Do you find that most banks that are, there's a ton of banks out there partnering with fintechs already. Do you find that they're partnering with them to gen loans primarily?
I'll have to go back. So our first survey that we did for the Bank Innovation Conference did kind of indicate what they were using them for. Some of it was to generate loans, but I actually cannot recall the top one. But there is a white paper on it in the publication. So.
Fair enough.
What can you, okay, we've talked about banks can do a survey that you help them identify things they may need to consider doing the bank. You're going to produce graduates. What other services does EKU provide to Kentucky's banking industry?
Sure. So, our primary role is education and educating those students. That's our primary service. But, these other things, they can be kind of an a la carte. If there's something specific that you think that we could help you with research-wise, we'll evaluate that and see if we can do that.
Are you going to be doing sessions that might be a week or two for bankers to come be in residence, sort of a mini banking school type function?
I think he's given us an idea of what we need to do. We can evaluate that. If that's something that you all think would be helpful, we absolutely would be happy to do that.
Well, Jay asked a very salient question about how do you know if you have an innovative culture within your bank. Jay, what are you looking for a program like EKU's to do to assist the banking industry?
Sure, I think technology is great, right? And I love the blockchain conversation, those type of conversations. But at the end of the day, we also need these folks to understand relationships. These things are great, and it's a convenience. And you can bank anywhere, and all that's great. But we have to also teach the folks coming up about building relationships, how to do that. We had a great speaker yesterday talking about telling your story. It's not all about statistics, right?
Nope.
And teaching those folks how to listen to their customer and take care of their need first, not ours. And hopefully your program remembers that as well. Because as community bankers, the customer service is what defines you as a community bank, that service style.
Absolutely. We do have a focus on that. So we just implemented in the last year a professional development series, and it's focused on that thing exactly, to be able to help them understand what it means to be a professional and to develop those relationships and to be able to create the value for the customers that they're serving. And that's really been a push for us because we know that that's what's needed in the workplace because we've heard it from lots of employers.
Good.
Are you bringing bankers in as sort of adjunct professors to teach any of these courses?
We are absolutely doing that. So.
Are you looking for volunteers?
Probably so.
You probably pay them, but I was an adjunct for many years, so it's darn near a volunteer job.
It is pretty much, yeah.
Well, I also have to tell you, they invited John Cooper and I once, and we've not been invited back. To talk about, we were talking about government relations, and there was some really shocked-looking faces in there.
Well, we'll invite you back. How about that?
No, I'm not big.
As I recall, you all hosted a banking conference on campus last year.
We did, and that is you mentioned the services that we can provide. That's definitely one. If you have events that you want to host and that we can help facilitate that, that's a great. We have great facilities. We have great. Maggie Abney with her connection with a lot of you, that would be really beneficial.
Are you partnering with any of the other regionals? Because I assume you have the only program like yours in Kentucky.
We do. For example, when we had the Banking Innovation Conference, we did open that up to other universities within Kentucky, and we had several participate in those events as well.
What can we do to help the program?
Sure. Continue to provide feedback. Continue to let us know what you need from our students and from the program in and of itself. And continue to respond when we send out things that would help us learn more about what might be needed for the Kentucky banks.
Are you looking for summer internships for students?
Yes, we're looking for that as well. Absolutely. It always helps students to know that they have a career to go to. And so internships are always a great selling point for students and hopefully a good selling point for you to be able to get some great talent in, to try that talent out, to train that talent up in a real applied scenario.
I think that's going to be one of the most really important things, I think, for EKU, for the program, for the industry, is that we were talking to Maggie about how we can get more internships just so that we can keep the interest there. You study it during the fall and the spring, and then you go home at summer, and you may lose interest and go into engineering or something really stupid like that.
Right.
But it's important, I think, that our banks support Eastern's program and reach out to all of those students and bring them in internships every chance we get.
Absolutely. I think some of the unique ones are looking at some of what the FDIC requirements are in educating people regarding financial literacy. There's been a couple of internships created around that, and that's helpful. So, not just your teller positions, but other positions that maybe, you don't have an employee that has time to spend on collecting that data from customers and what they might need. Maybe that would be a position for an intern. to allow them to really get to know your customers, to build those relationships, and teach them about how to do that.
Well, data mining would be the perfect thing. That's stuff that people really don't want to do.
Right.
And you get a good intern that knows how to do it, put them in a room, give them the computer, and let them mine your data.
That's right, absolutely. That's what we're building them to do, developing them for.
Well, if someone was interested in an internship program for your students, what's the point of contact?
Sure. So Maggie Abney would be a point of contact, or Darlene Stalker, and our emails are just simply our first name, period, our last name, at eku.edu. So Maggie Abney at eku.edu, or Darlene Stalker at eku.edu.
How are you attracting these students?
Sure. So a lot of times it's going through the high school business programs. Some high schools even have a bank in the high school. That's been a little bit less popular than in maybe a couple of decades ago, but that's been one point because they already have an interest in business. So that's been one way in which we've really tried to gain those students.
I'm thinking about a bank in high school making payday loans.
That would be very interesting.
Are you all encouraging high schools to start programs that will feed students into EKU?
Yes, that is a big part of our recruitment.
Gentlemen?
I'm good.
Laura, we really appreciate you and EKU doing what you're doing for the industry. I hope we see you again, and thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you all very much. We appreciate it, and we appreciate your support. Let us know what we can do.
FHLB Cincinnati is proud to support communities through our